This 21-year-old guy gets thrown into a prison where there's no law, only the rule of brute force, where every inmate earns his reputation through bloodshed. The moment he steps into this terrifying prison, everyone wants him dead. But what they didn't know was that the guy they were messing with, thinking he was weak, would turn out to be tougher than all of them combined. The story opens with a police van transporting several inmates straight to a dangerous prison in China. This was no ordinary prison. It housed criminals whose names alone were enough to make people's blood run cold. Any inmate who appeared weak was never left alive by the others. That same day, some new inmates are brought in, including a 21-year-old kid named Ricky. Ricky had been sent to this prison because he had brutally killed a man. The court had sentenced him to 10 years, but due to his young age, he only had to serve 5 years here. The moment Ricky walks through the metal detector, a red alert suddenly goes off. Guards immediately stop him and search him thoroughly, but nothing is found on him. Still, the machine kept showing that somewhere in his body there was a piece of metal. The guards then take him in front of an X-ray machine. The moment it turns on, everyone is stunned. 5 bullets were lodged inside Ricky's chest, and the shocking part was that despite having that many bullets in his body, he was standing there completely fine. A guard asks him why he never had them removed. Ricky answers that those bullets aren't his weakness, they're his strength. We then learn that the prison is divided into 4 separate blocks. Each block is ruled by an extremely dangerous inmate. These 4 are the kings of their own territories. They punish whoever they want and do whatever they please. No one in their territory can even breathe without their permission. Every corner of the prison was filled with fear, blood, and brutality. As morning comes, all the inmates get to work. That's when Samuel, the leader of the West Block, shows up. He immediately starts beating an old inmate named Wing because Wing had refused to follow his orders. Wing had spent his entire life in this prison and was about to be released on parole in a few days, so he had made a small toy for his son, wanting to give his kid a sweet little gift once he got out. But Samuel snatches the toy. Wing begs with folded hands to get it back, since he had made it for his son with great effort. But Samuel shows no mercy and smashes the toy over Wing's head. Wing falls to the ground and the toy shatters to pieces. Samuel threatens him that if he refuses to obey again, he'll kill him. Wing was now completely broken by the humiliation and pain. A fire of revenge ignites inside him. He picks up a sharp piece of the broken toy and charges at Samuel to attack him. But one of Samuel's guys trips him up. Wing falls. And in that very moment, Samuel drives the sharp piece of the toy into his face. Wing writhes in agony. A guard hears his screams and arrives. Instead of saving Wing, he tells Samuel to beat him more, then walks away. Samuel was moving on with his crew when Ricky suddenly steps in front of him. He kicks Samuel so hard that Samuel's face goes straight down onto sharp nails lying on the ground. The nails gouge out one of his eyes. Samuel's guy immediately charges at Ricky, but the moment Ricky locks eyes on him, such fear grips him that he and his buddies immediately take off. Samuel barely survives but loses one eye permanently. Now a fire of revenge against Ricky blazes inside him. He swears to kill him no matter what. One of Samuel's lackeys tells him that if they want to finish Ricky, they need the help of Mad Dragon. Mad Dragon was the most dangerous inmate in the prison. He could crush a man's bones with just one hand. No one who ever challenged him had ever survived. He was currently locked in solitary confinement because just a day before he had brutally killed an inmate. That same day, Samuel cuts a deal with the guard. He pays him off and tells him to inform Old Wing that he'll now have to spend 25 more years in this prison. The guard immediately goes to Wing and tells him his release has been canceled and he'll have to serve 25 more years. Hearing this, the ground shifts under Wing's feet. He realizes that if he stays in this prison, Samuel will torture him to death. Wing weeps and grabs the guard's feet, begging for his release. But instead of listening, they beat him and walk away. Wing was now completely broken with no hope left in his life. That very night, he hangs himself in the prison. By morning, the news has spread throughout the prison. Ricky also finds out that the old man whose life he had saved is now dead. When the guards are taking away his body, Ricky shows up. Seeing the handcuffs on Wing's hands, he tells the guards to at least free him now since he's already dead. But the guards don't respond. Ricky then breaks those sturdy iron handcuffs with his bare hands. Then he pulls out the same toy that Samuel had destroyed, the one Ricky had fixed himself, and places it next to Wing so his soul might find some peace. Wing's death shatters Ricky from the inside. The fire of revenge against Samuel burns even hotter within him. He has now decided that no matter what, he will avenge Wing's death. The next morning, all the inmates come to bathe. Ricky is standing there washing up when Samuel shows up and stares him down. At that same moment, the dangerous inmate Mad Dragon also arrives. Without a word, he lands such a powerful punch on Ricky's face that Ricky goes flying through the air and crashes down in the distance. But in the very next moment, Ricky rises like a storm. He drives a full-force punch into Mad Dragon's gut, bursting it open, and Mad Dragon dies on the spot. Seeing this, Samuel loses it and drives a sharp nail through Ricky's hand. But Ricky, without caring about the pain, snaps all of Samuel's fingers. Then, to finish his revenge, he drives his hand clean through Samuel's gut. Samuel writhes and dies right there. Watching all of this, the rest of the inmates are left in shock. No one had ever imagined that one man alone could wipe out dangerous inmates like Mad Dragon and Samuel within minutes. The guards grab Ricky and take him away. On the way, North Block leader Narumi steps in front of him. He had come to intimidate Ricky. But after watching Mad Dragon die with his own eyes, his plans had changed. Now, like a scared rat, he asked Ricky to be friends. But Ricky walks away without a word. Ricky is taken straight to the solitary confinement cell where the prison's most dangerous inmates were kept. Alone in the cell, Ricky suddenly feels sharp pain in his chest. This is where the story takes us back into his past, when Ricky was just an ordinary student. His parents had already left this world. One day he visits their grave, where his teacher Master Jiyong is standing before him. This was the man who had trained him in martial arts since childhood. The master asks him to show his strength. Ricky attacks him with full force. But the master sends him to the ground in one move. Then he tells Ricky that he is not yet a true master. There is still a weakness hidden inside him, and until he eliminates it, he can never become a true master. Hearing this, Ricky falls at his feet and says he will overcome his weakness no matter how long it takes. From that very day, his intense training begins. The master teaches him that first he must gain complete control of his mind to drive out anger, hatred, and fear. Then he places a large stone in front of him and tells him to break it with full focus and power. Ricky controls himself and splits the stone like paper with a single strike. The master then rains stones down on him. Ricky smashes them one by one right in the air. Finally, the master lifts the biggest stone and slams it straight into Ricky's chest. But Ricky breaks that one too, easily. Now the master understands that Ricky has learned to fully control his body and mind and needs no more training. The story then returns to the present. Ricky is sitting quietly in his cell. After a while, a guard comes in and tells him the assistant warden has summoned him. Ricky is immediately taken to his office, where the table was loaded with food. The assistant warden was missing one hand, replaced by an iron hook with two sharp prongs, which he was using to eat quite comfortably. The warden tells his guard to read Ricky's full file. The guard begins reading. It said that Ricky had been an orphan since childhood, with no parents, raised in an orphanage. He had been expelled from school because he would beat people up over the smallest things. That led him at a young age to contact with a gang, during which he killed a man. That crime was the reason he had been sent to this dangerous prison. After hearing all of this, the assistant warden slowly approaches Ricky and asks how 5 bullets ended up inside his chest. Ricky smiles but says nothing. The warden then shows him a photograph. It's of his closest friend, Kiko. The moment Ricky reaches out to take it, the warden drives his iron hook into Ricky's hand. He then starts raining punches on him non-stop. He wanted to force the truth out of Ricky at any cost. But Ricky spits in his face. This makes the warden go berserk, and in his fury he crushes the photograph. Seeing Kiko's photo being crushed, Ricky's blood boils. In one move, he snaps the heavy table in front of him in two. The assistant warden's entire arrogance evaporates. He cowers like a cat in a corner. Ricky could have finished him right then. But remembering his teacher's lessons, he controls his anger and quietly walks away. That night, Ricky sits in his cell looking at Kiko's photo, pain clearly visible in his eyes, because they used to be so happy together. They'd go out, hang out, have fun. But now his life was trapped inside these prison walls like a living hell. To calm his mind, he plays the flute he used to play with Kiko. Just then, a guard shows up and warns him that if he plays the flute again, he'll smash it to pieces. The next day, Samuel's old lackey steps out of his cell. Several inmates immediately surround him. They all wanted to avenge Wing's death, since his actions had cost the old man his life. One of them picks up a sharp blade and is about to kill him when North Block leader Narumi shows up. He stops them, saying that if they kill him, their sentences will be extended. They could even get the death penalty. But an inmate named Wong tells Narumi furiously that where was he when they were being oppressed? Why didn't he help them then? And now that it's their turn, why is he stopping them? He tells him a man like that should not be left alive. Hearing this, Narumi snaps. He grabs a blade in a rage and slashes Wong's face right down the middle in one stroke. Wong writhes in agony right there. The assistant warden watches all this from above and is delighted. He compliments Narumi and says he made him very happy. Then he hooks his iron prong into Wong's mouth and drags him away. That same day, the warden calls Narumi to his office. He hands him a special weapon and tells him that just as he killed Wong, he now needs to finish Ricky. Hearing this, the color drains from Narumi's face. Because Wong was just an ordinary inmate, but Ricky was no ordinary man. He had watched Mad Dragon die with his own eyes. He knew that if he went up against Ricky, he'd end up the same way. But it was the warden's order, so he had no choice but to obey. Shortly after, Wang's body is chained up and hung on a large cross in the prison yard so the rest of the inmates would see him suffering and be too scared to ever raise their voices against the warden again. Seeing Wang's body fills Ricky with rage. Right at that moment, Narumi suddenly attacks him. A vicious fight breaks out between the two. First, Narumi lands a powerful kick. Then, seeing his chance, he throws ground-up glass into Ricky's eyes. Everything goes dark for Ricky. He can't see anything. Narumi takes advantage of this and drives a blade into Ricky's hand. Ricky falls to the ground in pain. But then his hands land on a nearby water pipe. He immediately breaks the pipe. Washing his eyes with the rushing water, his vision clears again. Now he was more dangerous than ever. He tears into Narumi and delivers such a devastating slap to his head that one of Narumi's eyes pops right out and falls to the ground. At that moment, the assistant warden also arrives. Seeing Narumi's condition, he is horrified. On the other side, Ricky pulls and ties off the tendons in his hand and readies himself to fight again. Now, Narumi understood he was no match for Ricky, so he stabs himself. At first, everyone thinks he's admitted defeat, but it's a trap. The moment Ricky comes close, Narumi yanks out his own intestines and wraps them around Ricky's neck to lock him in place. But Ricky lifts him into the air with full force and delivers such a deadly punch to his head that his skull is crushed, killing Narumi right there. The moment Narumi dies, Ricky immediately brings down Wang's body and the rest of the inmates step up to help. Everyone was hoping Wang was still alive, but it was too late. Wang had already breathed his last. Seeing his fellow inmate in that condition, the fire of fury blazes inside Ricky. He tells all the inmates that the assistant warden is responsible for this innocent man's death, so finish him. Hearing this, all the inmates charged toward the assistant warden at once. They were ready to unleash years of bottled-up rage. But then suddenly someone arrives and grabs one inmate and smashes his head open. Everyone stops dead in their tracks. Standing before them were the leaders of the other 3 prison blocks. First was Cheng, a woman with a special ability. She could move from one spot to another in the blink of an eye. Second was Katama, a powerfully built inmate with a mountain-like body. Third was Brandon, who used specialized weapons and ropes to bind and finish his enemies. The assistant warden tells Ricky that if he really has the guts, he should fight these 3. But Ricky says nothing. He picks up Wang's body and quietly walks away. His fellow inmates kept urging him to take down all 3. Then the assistant warden makes him an offer. He says that with Narumi's death, the North Block is now empty, and he wants Ricky to become its new leader. But Ricky completely refuses this offer because he had no interest in becoming someone's puppet dancing to their orders. Around this time, a boy is sitting nearby watching him. Seeing Ricky play a tune on a leaf, the boy starts imitating him. After several failed attempts, no sound comes out. Ricky asks why, and when the boy opens his mouth, Ricky sees that half his tongue has been cut off. This boy had discovered a big secret inside the prison, connected to the assistant warden and block leader's drug trade. To keep the secret, they had cut out his tongue. Seeing this makes Ricky's hatred for the warden grow even stronger. Ricky gives him his flute. The moment the boy plays it, a tune flows out. In his joy, the boy gives Ricky some special leaves. The moment Ricky sees them, he understands that these are the plants used to make drugs, and all the block leaders were making big money trafficking them. Ricky asks the boy where he found them, and he says he got them from the West Block. Up above, Cheng was secretly watching them, because the West Block and the entire drug operation were under her control. She immediately runs to her people and nervously tells them their secret is out because the boy has told Ricky everything. After this, they summon the boy, where Brandon hands him a knife and threatens that if he doesn't kill Ricky that very night, he won't survive until morning. But the boy flat out refuses. Hearing this, Cheng brutally kills him and has his body dumped right in the middle of the prison, so the rest of the inmates are too scared to ever speak against them again. The moment Ricky arrives there and sees his friend's body, his heart shakes. Nearby lay the same flute. Seeing it, the fire of rage ignites in his eyes. On the other side, the assistant warden finds out about Cheng's actions and is furious with her. But before he can act, Ricky sets fire to the entire drug garden, and within minutes, hundreds of plants are reduced to ash. Cheng comes running, but it was already too late. Everything had burned to nothing. Seeing her garden in flames, she loses all control. Right then, Ricky tells her in fury that just as she killed his innocent friend, he'll make her suffer the same way. A brutal fight then breaks out between the two, and Cheng attacks Ricky at lightning speed. She punches him so hard that Ricky goes flying and slams into a wall. Meanwhile, the fire spreads rapidly through the prison, and other inmates seize the opportunity, making their way out of the building and running toward the prison gate. On the other side, the moment the assistant warden hears about the fire, he tears into the guards. Just then, one guard tells him that the warden is coming the next day for an inspection. Hearing this, he panics, because if things aren't brought under control, not just the inmates, but he himself is going to get badly burned. Meanwhile, Ricky himself is on the verge of giving up completely. But then he remembers his master Jiang's words, "When you feel like you're about to lose, never let your enemies see how much strength you still have." First, make you believe you've already lost. And when his attention drops, pour everything into one single strike so he never gets a chance to recover. The moment that lesson comes back to him, Ricky rises once again. That same storm returns to his eyes and he readies himself to face his enemies. At that point, Brandon also shows up. Without wasting a second, Brandon attacks Ricky, hurling rope after rope at him. In no time, Ricky's entire body is bound in those spike-studded ropes, as though his body had been stitched up with iron wire. Then from the other side, Kitama also arrives. He seizes Ricky in his massive body and was about to finish him off when suddenly the alarm blares across the entire prison. All inmates are ordered to immediately return to their cells, with a warning that anyone who disobeys will be shot dead. But Kitama doesn't stop. He wanted payback from Ricky no matter what. The guards give warnings. When he doesn't comply, they open fire on him. Even so, he drags the wounded Ricky into a cell. The moment the two get inside, the heavy door slams shut, and from both sides, wet cement starts pouring rapidly into the cell. This was all the assistant warden's scheme. He wanted to bury both Ricky and Kitama alive. But then Ricky puts all his strength into breaking the heavy cell door open and carries Kitama out as well. Seeing this, the assistant warden is floored. He never imagined Ricky would save the life of his own enemy. However, from the cement and Kitama's massive weight, Ricky himself is badly crushed and both of them collapse to the ground. After this, the assistant warden orders the guards to wipe out all evidence of everything that happened in the prison before the warden arrives the next day. He says that once the inspection is over, he'll teach Ricky a lesson he'll never forget for the rest of his life. The next morning, everyone stands waiting for the warden. After several hours pass with no sign of him, people grow tired and sit down. Then a car appears in the distance and everyone jumps back to their feet. The warden and his son both step out of their car. The moment he arrives, the assistant warden tells him that an inmate named Ricky has burned down the entire drug plant garden. Hearing this, the warden flies into a rage. He is then taken to Ricky, who is locked in a cell with his entire body encased in dried cement. But the moment the warden steps up to him, Ricky breaks all the cement off his body, lunges forward, and pins the warden down. He was about to finish the warden off when Kitama bursts through the wall and appears. He locks Ricky's hands in thick iron bars and starts driving punch after punch into him. The very man whose life Ricky had saved was now brutally attacking him. But just as Kitama is about to crush Ricky's head, Ricky reveals his true power. He lands such a devastating punch on Kitama's throat that it tears open, then in the next blow, snaps his fingers off. Within moments, Kitama crumples to the ground. Seeing this, the warden immediately activates the hydraulic press above. The massive iron machine begins descending to crush Ricky. He strains with everything he has to hold it back, but then the warden hits him with a powerful electric shock. Ricky crumples in pain and the press bears down on him fast. Then suddenly the machine stops and slowly begins to rise. Everyone's eyes turn to Kitama, who was still alive, holding back the hydraulic press with all his remaining strength. Because Ricky had saved his life too, compassion for Ricky had found its way into his heart. Seizing the moment, Ricky breaks the door down and gets out, then tries to hold back the machine and calls for Kitama to come out. But Kitama couldn't even move his feet. Finally, he gives up, and in the very next moment, the hydraulic press crushes him completely. With his death, a photograph drifts down and falls by Ricky. It shows Kitama standing with his mother. Seeing this fills Ricky's eyes with pain and rage, and he unleashes all of it on the warden. Then the warden hits another button. The floor suddenly opens up, and Ricky falls down into a deep pit. After that, a large hole is dug. Ricky is bound in iron chains and thrown inside. A little while later, the warden arrives and orders all the inmates to start throwing dirt on him. 2 inmates refuse, and the warden immediately has them shot dead. The rest of the inmates, paralyzed by fear, are forced to dump dirt on Ricky, and he begins to be buried alive, slowly. Then the warden says that if he survives 7 full days in that pit, he'll be set free. After this, the assistant warden plants a long bamboo pole in the pit so that even buried under the earth, Ricky can still breathe. When night falls, Ricky's fellow inmates sink into deep shock. They can't believe their own hands buried their friend alive. That same night, the leaders of the East and West blocks arrive there and stuff cloth down through the bamboo so no air can get in, hoping Ricky dies of suffocation. But the moment they leave, Ricky snaps that bamboo in two from underground. The story then takes us back into Ricky's past again. One day, his closest friend Kiko is walking home from school. Along the way, she spots some thugs who had been waiting for her. She panics and turns back, but another thug grabs her from the other side. They force her to a deserted spot and lock her up, because sometime earlier Ricky had badly beaten their boss on Kiko's behalf, and now he wanted payback to her. He was about to hurt her when Kiko spots the right moment and makes a break for it. Running to save her life, she reaches the top of a tall building. But she accidentally falls off, and she dies on impact. When Ricky finds out, his heart is utterly shattered. Like a madman, he hunts for the person responsible for Kiko's death. He finally finds the criminal. The man fires bullet after bullet at Ricky, but nothing touches Ricky. Instead, Ricky tears into him. First he breaks his leg, then he crushes his head, killing him right there. This was the murder that got Ricky arrested and sent to this hellhole of a prison. Back in the present, the full 7 days have passed. When the time is up, Ricky is pulled out of the pit. The warden was absolutely sure he'd be dead by now, but the moment Ricky is brought out, everyone's eyes go wide, because Ricky was still alive and still breathing. Seeing this, the warden is stunned. He can't figure out how a human being could stay alive buried in dirt without breathing properly for that many days. Ricky is immediately stood up between sharp iron rods. The warden asked him what kind of strength he has. He wants to know how Ricky survived 7 days without proper air. But Ricky stays silent as always. Then Chang shows up. She's holding several sharp blades. She shoves all of them into Ricky's mouth and tapes it shut from outside. Then she starts slapping him across the face nonstop. With each blow, Ricky's mouth fills with blood. After a while, the warden himself steps forward and pulls the tape off Ricky's mouth. But the moment the tape comes off, Ricky spits all the blades out at once, straight at the warden. The sharp blades sink right into the warden's face. He lets out a scream of pain. Furious, the warden has Ricky locked back up in a solitary cell. That night, an inmate secretly brings him food. He sets it down and is about to leave when Narumi's old associate spots him and immediately goes and tells the warden everything. The warden rushes there with his guards. He brutally kills that inmate on the spot and drags the body right in front of Ricky's cell. But when he peers inside the cell, his blood runs cold. Only broken chains are lying there. Ricky has vanished. In reality, Ricky had been clinging to the ceiling, hiding up above. The moment the assistant warden steps inside, Ricky drops on him and beats him savagely. As Ricky steps outside, he sees the body of the inmate who had helped him. Seeing his fellow prisoner dead, his blood boils over. The assistant warden runs for his life. But the moment he gets downstairs, every inmate in the prison has him surrounded on all sides. At that same moment, a vicious fight breaks out between the guards and the inmates. On the other side, the warden is inside conducting his inspection and has no clue whatsoever that a fight has broken out in the prison. During this, an inmate mutters something under his breath at the warden from behind. The warden snaps and cuts off his hand right in front of everyone. Just then, Ricky arrives. The warden immediately fires at him, but Ricky swiftly yanks the assistant warden in front of himself. The bullet goes straight into the assistant warden's gut. His stomach swells up like a balloon and then bursts. At that very moment, Chang arrives and launches a relentless attack on Ricky. From the other side, Brandon hurls his spike-studded ropes at Ricky too. The non-stop assault throws Ricky off balance and he falls into boiling water. His body writhes in agony. Chang seizes the moment and drives her leg at him. But Ricky catches her leg and shoves it straight into that boiling water, snapping it clean off. Chang screams in pain. Seeing this, Brandon panics and tries to run to save himself. But the warden fires a bullet at him himself. The moment it hits, Brandon's body rips apart and he dies right there. Now, only 2 people are left. Ricky on one side, the warden on the other. Both are standing face to face. Ricky leaps with full force and kicks the warden so hard he crashes into the wall. But in the very next moment, the warden's body begins to tremble, and before everyone's eyes, he transforms into a massive monster. We learn that, just like Ricky, the warden too had a strange special power, one that turned him into a dangerous beast. At the start, this monster warden beats Ricky badly. For a moment, it seems like maybe Ricky will lose this time. But then he uses his head. Waiting for the right moment, he grabs the monster, lifts him, and hurls him into a massive industrial grinder nearby. Ricky forces him down into the grinder with everything he has. Within moments, the monster's body is torn to shreds and ground to pulp. In the end, Ricky picks up what's left of his head and walks out. On the other side, the fight between the inmates and guards is still going. Then Ricky holds up the warden's severed head for everyone to see and shouts that they are all free now. He hurls the head away, then drives a full-force strike into the prison's massive outer wall. The wall crumbles, and just like that, Ricky and every other inmate walk free. And that's where the movie ends.